represent the Gideons, and I'm out of the Heart Mountain Camp area in Park County. And we are happy to kind of assist you guys here with partnering with your church. And the Bighorn Basin Gideon Camp is kind of in the rebuilding phase at the moment. So we're looking for health and growth here in your community. You guys have a bunch of hotels and schools and churches that are just not being really adequately serviced by the Gideons at the moment. So, yes, well, I'm kind of an hour away at our Heart Mountain Camp there in Powell and Cody area. And so we've got about 29 active members over there. So the Gideons are, I think the last time the Gideons were here about a year and a half ago or so, Daryl said, or it's been a little while. Sorry about that, but so we are, for those that are new to the Gideons, do everybody kind of recognize who the Gideons are and what kind of our mission is? So we're probably best known for placing Bibles in hotel rooms. So if you guys have traveled around the country, you'll see our Bibles in the hotel bedside tables there. But that's actually not how our Gideon Association started back in 1899. So it really started as a business and professional men, Christian men's fellowship. It started with 3 traveling salesmen that realized that traveling salesmen back in the early days didn't have the best reputations. You know, they were gone from the house for weeks at a time, and back in those days, they had more of a reputation for kind of drinking and gambling and carousing out there. So the Gideons, or the salesmen that were Christians, kind of wanted to uphold each other and strengthen their Christian walk and kind of keep more of accountability for them up there. So they got together and said, you know, we need to pray for each other. We need to uplift their spiritual walk. And so that's really the initial focus of the Gideons. It was to build up Christian businessmen and professionals. And so I come at it from the professional side. And thank you for the acolytes this morning, for the firefighters and the EMTs and service. So I'm retired hydraulic engineer with the fire service. I come from Southern California. I worked for the fire service for 34 years and retired and moved to this side of the Continental Divide and had a whole lot of stress off my shoulders. So I worked in the city of Pasadena, a little town of about 300,000 people. And we're neighbors with Los Angeles, which has about 18 million people. And it's not like towns around here where you go a half hour or an hour to the next town. It's like you go across the street and you're in another town. So everything just blurs together. So it's really 19 million people that are just going a mile a minute over there. But so that's our Gideons organization. And so actually we really didn't start distributing Bibles till about 10 years after the organization formed. And then they got the idea of placing Bibles, and we moved into having the wives join us as auxiliary members, because they're actually our main prayer partners. And so the churches really are our home base for our ministry. We partner with churches, we partner with you guys. So your funds actually help us place more Bibles. You guys are actually placing more Bibles. You know, your second song day is Make Disciples Out of All of Us, which was a great song. So that's really our great commission, that we're all called to make disciples out of all nations. And so our world population is, 77 million people? Billion? Yeah, it's a lot. And our research has told us that 40% of the world out there has not been reached by the gospel yet. So there's still a lot of work to be done out there, and there's a big harvest out there to be had. So it's up to all of us to get the word out there. And I'm not sure I haven't talked to Jerry about this, but as far as your church's mission outreach, I know you guys have been partnering with us for years, and we thank you for that. And actually, our camp is praying for your church every week also. So we are men of the word, we're men of faith, we're men of action, and we're men of prayer. So we are praying for you guys. I know you guys have been in need of a pastor here for many years now, and you guys have come together, and I know people in Wyoming here, we're just hardy folks, and we get it done, and I congratulate you guys for that. But we're going to have maybe a little talk a little later on as far as maybe brainstorm a little bit about where you guys are with that and see if I can help encourage you guys or get some more guys to school and get some training up or do some other searching out there for some your spiritual leader here. So that's a critical thing. But have you guys all seen our small testaments? So this is what your funds go to that we distribute to the schools and to the kids and the universities. They come in different colors. And we have a larger one that go to the hospitals and to doctors' offices and like our Serenity houses, pregnancy crisis centers. So we place all these in waiting rooms for the doctors and pass them out to the schools. And I'll share with you a little bit about a recent trip that I was on last month to Indonesia. And Indonesia is kind of a whole different world over there. It's kind of on the other side of the world, but they actually let us go into schools, into the classroom, and distribute God's Word, which was amazing because here in the States, we can't go into the schools anymore with our political scene here. So we have to meet the kids out in the sidewalks and distribute Bibles to them, not in the classrooms anymore. 20 years, 30 years ago, we could go into the classrooms, but that has all changed. But just a quick testimony about our New Testaments here. So there was a group of Gideons out of the country that were distributing Bibles on university campus, and they ran across one of the students that was a little angry at them. And so he grabbed the testament that the Gideons at the table were distributing, and he got so mad at the Gideons, and he was so angry at God that he took our Bible and threw it as hard as he could up on the roof next door to where the guys' tables were. So I'm going to encourage you guys all to throw these away when you get them. So as the Gideons were finishing their distribution at that university that day, they had a gentleman that came up to them, kind of covered in tar and been working hard all day, and he said he was up working on the roof, struggling, was very depressed and thinking about suicide that day, just because life's downturn on him. And he was looking for a sign from God, and this little book hit him in the head. And so he opened it up right away and started reading it and found a help section in the front about depression and hope for his life. And he came down and found the Gideons at that table and asked them to explain what this book was all about. He said he just got hit in the head with it up on the roof, and told him that he was having a bad day and thinking about taking his life. And so those Gideons at that table actually walked him through the Lord's Prayer in the back and his salvation, and he came to the Lord that day. Just by somebody else's act, God uses all of us and everything to His will. His word does not come back void at all. So the Gideons get thousands and thousands of testimonies like that every year from our placement of Bibles that you guys so graciously give to us to send out there. So these little Bibles cost about $1.65 a piece to not only print, but that covers the cost of handling and shipping and customs when they go overseas, and it goes for translating It goes for warehousing them. So it really goes from the printing stage right into somebody's hand. So that $1.65, puts it all the way into somebody's hand. And so all the funds that you guys donate to the Gideons go directly to Bible distributions. So none of your funds go into administrative costs. The Gideons have broken that out into other funds. So that's what our membership dues go to. So that covers costs. So you guys pay directly for Bibles getting into somebody's hand. So our Bible, a box of these, about 100 Bibles. So I'd encourage anybody that can to buy a box for us. That would be awesome. So that's a lot of seeds we can plant out there, and we just never know where, when those seeds are going to fall on fertile ground or rocky ground. But, like the one case over at the university, even though it fell on some rocky ground with that one angry student, God took it and placed it in some very fertile ground. And, somebody else's heart was won for the Lord there. But the Gideons, most of our local camps work locally right in your neighborhoods. So the majority of your funds go right to your local schools and churches and hotels. Our larger Bibles, they cost about $5 to get into a hotel room. The larger blue ones you normally see in our hotels. And do you guys have our display case with our Gideon cards? We need to get you guys one. So we have a program with our Gideon cards that you guys can, the cards are free. I was just over at Walgreens yesterday looking at their rack of greeting cards, and they're anywhere from like $7 to $3 or $4 for a card nowadays, and then you got to put a stamp on it. But our Gideon cards are free, and they're sympathy cards and happy birthday cards and congratulation cards and memorial cards that you can purchase Bibles in somebody else's name and send them a card saying that we bought, 5, 10 Bibles for you. And you can send that off to them and send a check to the Gideons, and those Bibles will be placed somewhere in the world under their name. So that is a great program where you can keep assisting the Gideons. And there's another program, so kind of a showing of hand. How many professional and businessmen do we have in the house? Retired is good. And even young gentlemen that have growing families. So God doesn't use kind of lazy guys out there. So God only uses busy men that are active and are wanting to serve Him, and that's who He really operates the best with. So being a Gideon is truly a calling, and it's just being obedient to God's word. Going out and making disciples of all men and passing His word out there. So I've actually been truly blessed. I've been a Gideon now for going on 4 years. My wife's father was a Gideon for 10 years before he passed. And so she would have been here this morning, but she's singing at our church this morning at our praise and worship band. And she's actually been a Gideon longer than I have. She's been performing at all the Gideon functions over the years, and so I kind of joined just to carry on her father's legacy for her. And I wish I had joined the Gideons much earlier in my life, because it kind of takes a few years to figure out how big this organization is and where it really goes. And I've been truly blessed by going to our local schools and meeting our 5-year-old or fifth graders and passing out Bibles to them, and just hearing all these testimonies that come back over the years. It's really been a blessing for me in my spiritual walk. Like I said, the Gideons started out with focus on fellowship with good other Christian men and strengthening each other, and it's that old saying of iron sharpens iron. And so I don't know if you guys are metal workers and have sharpened iron before, but the whole process, running it through a stone there, it causes a lot of friction and there's sparks flying, but you turn out with a good usable tool there that's meant to be used and not sit on a shelf. So it's a process that men go through, and the Gideons, we have a lot of great tools in our toolbox that we want to share with you guys as far as your ministry and getting God's word out there for your community and in the country there. But besides locally, the Gideons, we have an opportunity to go international. So the Gideons now operate in 190 different countries out there. We have 109 different languages that we print our Bibles in now. And we have a Gideon card app that, if any of you guys are international language or have friends from other countries out there, so we have a app that you can download on your phone that has over 1,900 different languages for the Bible. So you can pretty much find any language, or if you have friends out of the country that want to download an app onto your phone, you can do that also. Did everybody receive one of our Bible or bulletin inserts this morning about the Gideons? So in here, a quick follow-up story about us, and there's some testimonies in here for you. And in the front cover is about our Gideon card program. So we'll talk to Daryl, Jerry, and see if we can get a display rack over here for you guys. And I encourage everybody to use that. It's a great way to kind of pass the word out and kind of honor one of your friends out there, or somebody who's in memory of somebody who's just passed. Seems like all of our churches are having friends that are just passing. But there are, for other folks that would like to help and participate and partner with the Gideons through your church, we also have a program called the Friends of Gideons, which you can make monthly or yearly contributions. You can also purchase Bibles that we have also for your own personal witnessing and distribution out there. So that's something you can do on a monthly giving program, and we're always looking for prayers too. Like I said, we are praying for your church, and we would love for you guys to be praying for the Gideons also. Like I said, there's a great deal of work to be done out there, and it's all hands on board. God uses all of us, no matter what our health is. If we're still kicking and on the right side of the grass, God is still using you guys. So, just, be calm and pray and just hear how God is calling you to help and grow and strengthen your church here. But, so besides our local work that we do, we also, like I said, we have an international presence. So last month in February, we had international Bible distributions going on in Mexico, Africa, Cambodia, and we also were in Indonesia, which I had the opportunity to go to Indonesia last month for a week. Does anybody know where Indonesia is or been to Indonesia? It is on literally the other side of the world. It took me 3 days to get there, about 29 hours in the air, 5 different plane flights, and it was a long ways over there. Across the international date line, and you'll see by a few of the photos I brought, I must have grown by 3 feet. Something about that air travel and being in the air, you grow, but when I arrived in Indonesia, I was like 3 feet taller than everybody else over there. It was, I don't know what happens when you're flying. But just a little quick geography class about Indonesia. So it's one of the largest Muslim countries in the world right now. Indonesia is made up of a bunch of islands. It's the largest island chain country in the world. Anybody want to guess how many islands make up Indonesia? The Hawaiian Islands, they've got, 300 islands there? Anybody want to guess how many islands make up Indonesia? 5? Okay, a lot more. So Indonesia is actually made up of 17,508 islands, thereabouts. So it is a huge island chain. So the capital there is Jakarta, which we flew into. And then we took another smaller plane, about an hour and a half, to one of their larger islands, Borania. And it's actually the town that we were in, La Planca Rey, is another little small town, about 300,000 people also on this island. And this island's actually made up of 3 different countries. Malaysia owns part of it, Borneo owns part of it, and Indonesia owns the other part of it. And the whole population of that whole island itself is like 34 million people. So it is a big place, very congested. I don't know what they do over there, but they all drive on the wrong side of the road, which took me a moment to figure that one out. All their cars are really small, the roads are really small, they're very poor third world country. So we were visiting all the hospitals and military bases. It seems like they got a military, it's almost like Starbucks over there. They've got a military base on every block, it seems like. All these little military bases, I'm not sure who they're at war with right now, but there's a lot of military. So there's mosques everywhere. A very colorful country. They're just known for their hospitality. All these schools that we went into, all the headmasters or the principals' offices all had little waiting rooms with drinks on them, bottled water. Even the locals there don't even drink their own water. You know, they're not even used to it. So everything was bottled water over there, but they had their local food, and some of our guys were a little nervous about eating the local flair over there, but God was watching over us, so I'm diving in, and so I never got sick over there for the week, so everybody's prayers helped our team. So we took a team, about 9 of us over there from the United States, and one from Australia, and another gentleman from Singapore, our local Gideons. And we met up with about 30 local Gideons there in Indonesia, and they were our interpreters for the week, and they were our local drivers. And everybody drives a stick shift over there, and the roads aren't so good, and everybody tailgates, and so they just can't see the potholes coming. You know, normally we can kind of avoid potholes, but I hit some violent potholes in that car. I had to get out at our next stop and check the wheels. I thought for sure we dented our tires. But the driving was a little crazy over there, and everybody drives scooters over there. So the majority of people are driving scooters. They're all on their little sandals or flip-flops. Half of them had helmets. But it basically was their main transportation over there. So I would see families on their scooters. The dad was in the front driving, mom was in the back, and then they had 2 kids in the middle. Or mom was driving the scooter with a kangaroo pouch on with their baby. And very common, the UPS and the Uber drivers had big boxes on the back of their scooters above their heads and sticking out this far, and going down the street with little baskets, delivering parcels, and it was just their way of life. And I thought for sure I'd see more accidents over there, but I only saw 2 scooters that fell down on the ground. And luckily, one lady that was flailed out on the ground, she was happened to crash right in front of the hospital, so I think she was in pretty good shape. She didn't have too far to go to get there. But the other thing about Indonesia being such a hospitable country, so every morning at our hotel, I got woke up by them singing to me at 4 a.m. We had a mosque right next door to the hotel with the big speakers up on top of their dome that they started their prayer chants at 4 a.m. every day. So it was an early call, and I don't know if you guys ever heard the Muslim prayer chants, but there's nothing sweet or charming. It's kind of harsh and obnoxious, actually. That's what I called it, especially at 4 o'clock in the morning. I know the farmers are getting up early, but oh my gosh, it was hot. But when I left last month, you guys remember our little bitter cold that we had? And Cody, we had a couple feet of snow that fell in a day. So we were in negative 20, 25 the day I left. And so when I got off the plane 3 days later, I had over 100-degree temperature change from when I took off. It was in the low 90s, high humidity, and it was supposed to be raining all week long. And we just had a little bit of rain on Monday when we arrived, but God watched over us all week long and kept the rain at bay. And when we finished our distributions all week, we got back to the hotel early on Friday, and as soon as all of our team members got back, the skies just opened up and deluge came down for 2 hours. The skies just dumped. So God was really blessing us in our work over there, and kept us all dry. We all went prepared for rain all week, but God was just doing amazing things and watching over us. So our goal when we took off for Indonesia, we were going to place 150,000 scriptures over there. That was our goal. And I started doing the math, being an engineer, and I said, after our first day, our team, we passed out like 1,000 scriptures. So we left the hotel about 5:30 or 6:30 in the morning and got back about 5. And we had 9 teams, and we did about 800 to 1,000 a day, our team. And so if you start doing the math, I said, no way are we going to get 150,000 scriptures. Somebody was way off the mark on our Bible distribution over there. And we didn't realize that they're out in the countryside, about 2 hours out, there was another 60 local Gideons that were distributing Bibles out in the countryside. And they were in a friendly competition with the U.S. guys to see who could distribute more. And I'll tell you, those guys did an amazing job, and they beat us every single day. They were just on a mission to show us up, and they did. But you'll see in these pictures that the kids that we were distributing to at the schools were just ecstatic to get a scripture or a Bible. And a lot of them, it was the first personal book that they'd ever owned. When I was able to tell them that you could put your name in the front of the Bible and you can take it home, their faces just lit up, and they got their name in that thing so fast. I went into some of the school libraries, and our libraries, we are so blessed here. Our libraries are full of books, but their shelves are pretty thin. They have very few books over there. Most of the kids are running around barefoot, and you'll see by our photos here that most of them, or actually all the schools and the staff, all wear uniforms, very bright and colorful, but they're all paid for by the government, or the cities all purchase their uniforms for them. They have a different color every day, and so at least they can all kind of look like they're all in uniform and belong to the same school. And so the poverty doesn't look as prevalent when they're all at school together. And we did take over some bilingual Bibles also that we were able to give to the universities and the upper level high schools, that they actually studied out of our Bibles for their English classes. So it was pretty cool that they were able to study the Bible for English and get God's Word in just through the school classes there. What else about Indonesia? Perfect. Let me see if I can show you guys kind of where all your funds and kind of the impact that these Bible distributions are making internationally here. See if I can fire this back up and see if it'll work. So I just kind of picked out some of the highlight photos here. I won't bore you with all of them, but we'll just... So that was our goal, 150,000 Bibles in 5 days' time. So, and actually all these Bibles, 150,000, we placed them one at a time in each student's hand, in the hospitals and in the military bases. It wasn't like we were dropping off a box of 100 Bibles at a school. The local Gideons there were able to distribute the Bibles out at all the locations, so when we arrived, they were already there for us. See, I grew by 3 feet against these locals there. But you'll see that the boy students are a little harder to pick out, but you'll see the gals here in the head garb on, the Muslim students over there. And they were just as happy and thrilled to get the Bibles as the Christian students. Some of the schools that we were at, they separated the Christian and the Muslims out of the classrooms. So sometimes they had to go outside, and sometimes they took the Christian kids outside. But it was always funny. If whichever side they were on, we could always see all these little faces at the door. All the Muslim students were at the doorways, kind of poking in to see what we were doing, and they all wanted to be in there and get a Bible also. But we were welcomed at every single school that we showed up at. The local Gideons made the advance notices and preparations for all of us. There's one of our little Muslim girls that was this excited. That was one of the universities we were at over there. I think I'm buried somewhere in the middle there. So I had to go see our local firefighter brothers over there. And the other thing that kind of took me back when I was in Indonesia, I wasn't quite prepared to kind of the reception I got as being somebody from America. I didn't realize I was going to be the first American that a lot of these kids and staff have even seen. So I wasn't even really thinking about that. This is one of the clinics that we're at, and that's the head physician that came out and welcomed us. And we found out a lot of the staff in the staff at the hospitals and the adults, they were just as excited to come and greet us and take our picture also. They were just excited as the kids. But so having somebody from America giving them God's Word, a Bible, the two of those together, it was just so exciting for these kids. But some of these schools had, 25, 30 kids, and others had hundreds of kids at them. So it was, kind of a mix all week long that we were going to. And so this was right in the kids' classrooms that we were able to go in and talk to them. So yes, you guys are standing in the gap for these kids, these poor countries that don't have the funds to buy their own Bibles, and they just don't have the money for that right now. And it's very apparent when you go over there and see these countries that most of these classrooms, they did not have glass in their windows. They were just open window frames with some bars on them. And most of them were just open air classrooms. So when it rained, it just kind of came in a little bit. But a lot of schools didn't even have glass on their windows or books in their shelves. But truly, you guys do stand in the gap for these countries that can't afford to buy Bibles for themselves, and we do support the local Gideons over there in their efforts. And so we were basically going over to help them with their distributions from funds from the U.S. And we were able to do training over there with the local Gideons and help them with their policies and organizing them and showing them kind of how to put on pastor banquet dinners and training dinners and training meetings. There was another one of the clinics, and there again, the one lady in the middle there, she was the head physician at that clinic, and they took time out of their day just to stop and come greet us and welcome us, and they said, oh yeah, we would love Bibles for our clients and patients in their hospitals and clinics. There's another one of our little Muslim students. So I hope they don't get in trouble when they go home and their parents see that. But God works in mysterious ways, and He just uses those for amazing efforts. Just planting seeds out there. We just, I don't know where all these Bibles are going to land and what God's going to do to them, but He does, and that's the beauty of this whole program and ministry out there. They are, just planting seeds out there. So that's actually what we did in 5 days. So we beat our goal on Thursday. So we actually planted over 172,000. Oh, you're right. It is billions. 7.9 billion out there. So that was our final push home. Our hotel minivan or van died on us at the hotel, or going into the airport there. So most of the cars over there are all manual because they can't afford the automatics. So the guy, when he pulled up the airport, it's got that little gate at the airport entrance and parking lot, and the guy stalled out the van. Started. I thought he was going to burn out the starter on that thing. He cranked that thing over so many times. We finally told him, we're all going to jump out and push start you. The guy said, okay. So 9 of us get out of this hotel van, and we start pushing it, and okay, bump start it. That didn't work. Okay, we'll push again, bump start it. And so the guy didn't know how to bump start a vehicle. So we had to show the hotel staff. We finally said, okay, you're fired. Get out of the van. One of our guys jumped in, and first time he bump started it correctly, and so we got to teach them a little bit how to bump start a vehicle also. But one more quick story about Indonesia. So after we hit our goals, we were able to go out to the country and just find some new locations that weren't part of our initial distribution plan. And when I was out in the country, I started noticing these giant concrete bunker-looking buildings out there behind people's houses and out in the field and next to rivers. They were probably a 30 by 30 footprint, 2 or 3 stories tall. And instead of windows, they had little holes all around each floor, like bullet holes or something going around these things. And I started asking local guys, what are all these concrete buildings out here? I was seeing more and more of them out in the countryside. And so what they said, they were birdhouses, giant birdhouses. So has anybody heard of bird nest soup? So these birdhouses are for swallow mud bird nests. And they go in there and they harvest these bird nests, ship them off to China, and it's a delicacy over there. Bird nest soup. These guys, China pays thousands and thousands of dollars per kilo for bird nests. And it's very expensive. Indonesia can't afford to have that soup over there because they can't afford it. They're just impoverished over there. So you guys that have your barns out there that have those barn swallows that are those nuisance nests out there, could be a second job, another way of making a little money. Harvest those nests and ship them off to China. They pay top dollar for those things. But my wife is kind of a foodie, and I told her about it, and she kind of had the same reaction to you guys. Ugh, I'm not touching that. But we did look it up online. It is a thing, but it's not legal here in the States for health reasons. Go figure that. But that was my Indonesia trip, and like I said, God really blessed us and blessed all the churches that funded Bible distributions. As you guys know, the whole Gideons, we are a volunteer organization. So I paid for my own trip over there and back and forth, and all of our food and lodging. All of our Gideon members paid our own way over there. But thank you for your support over the years. And without the local churches, we don't have the funds to place as many Bibles that are really needed around the world out there right now. There's just such a huge need, and sometimes we feel with the economy here that, with gas prices and, groceries right now and interest rates going up and just cost of living here, we feel like we're kind of squeezed, but we are still so blessed no matter how tight things get for us here. We have really so much more than they have around the world. So really, as you prayed this morning for our many blessings that we have, we truly do have more blessings than we can even realize. And I didn't really realize until you get over there and see for your own eyes, truly how blessed I am and my wife are, and just all these communities around here, we are truly blessed. Not only having the bighorns next door, but just what we do have in our own possessions and in our wealth here. So please be generous and provide and stand in the gap for these other countries over there. And I'll turn it back over to Jerry, unless anybody has any questions about Indonesia or the Gideon organizations. And yes, sir.
Language barrier?
Considerable. Yeah, so Indonesia has over 300 different languages in all those islands. And so Bali is their main language that we printed all these Bibles for them in. So yes, I had to have an interpreter all week long. And so luckily I had the same interpreter, so we kind of got used to each other. And my first opportunity to speak with an interpreter, and it was a little challenging the first couple days. You have got to say a little bit and let him talk a little bit, and then talk a little bit, and back and forth. But and I was never quite sure that my message was the same one getting out there. But so during the week, I started having fun with the kids over there, asking them, how many know where they're going when they die, or how many are planning on going to heaven? How many are planning on going to heaven when they die? That was my question. And then I asked them through the interpreter, how many want to go today? And all their hands immediately went down as quick as possible. So I knew the interpreter was passing out the right message. So that was my little counterbalance message there. But I would love to talk to some gentlemen, our business and professional men that are feeling the call to join our Gideons and help rebuild the Bighorn County Basin camp here. Like I said, it's been truly a blessing and honor for me to be part of the Gideons. It's really a prestigious group out here, and very honorable men, and just the fellowship that I've had over the last 3 years now, going 4 years, it's been amazing. My spiritual growth has grown as far as what I'm able to do in our churches now and the community, and it has sharpened my spiritual walk tremendously. So I encourage gentlemen that meet the qualifications, and even ones that don't, please join us in our Friends of the Gideons as far as monthly giving or annual giving. And just pray about it and see how God moves you and how He's still working with you guys and growing your hearts in His ministry out there. So thank you guys for your time. And like I said, it was a pleasure being here. And I'm looking at coming back this summer and do some camping up in your Bighorn. So